welcome back to the Metal Mixtape. It's the boy, it's the Don DJ Ramo on the air. We have Harrison Whitecloud. Harrison, for the people who are listening, we did have to re-record the intro, but we were talking about how for a couple of years now, for like 2 to 3 years, it was regular. You were regularly here in Oregon, man. You were regularly shredding.
Yeah, like I was saying, I think Rivera Fest is a beautiful thing as far as, Dustin Rivera's property out there and what the actual festival does for the local Oregon metal community. It's a really beautiful thing. I always enjoyed my time up there.
Dude, and you know what's crazy? It's like you kind of grew up with us, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I want to say like towards the beginning of my adult life, you know, turning, I think the first time I was at Rivera Fest, I was maybe like 17 or 18. So yeah, I kind of got to grow with a lot of you guys out there.
That's insane, man. It's like, and now, how old are you now?
I'm 23. I'm gonna turn 24 on September 5th. So
Dang,
a little
time's
over a
flying
month.
by, man.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
dude, a lot of people here in Oregon, a lot of people, that around in your area, everybody always knew you as a shredder, as a great songwriter. What, what was your inspiration to move into like the producing aspect and the recording aspect and building your own studio, man, and get into the grind on that? Did you always have a knack for that growing up, or like how'd you get inspired to like because you went full force on it, man? Like I could just see your studio behind you and you went
Yeah,
just full force on it. It's a beautiful studio. Like
thank you.
what inspired you to and what inspired your decision to like step down from playing music for a while to playing music in the studio and recording music in the studio and producing others?
Uh-huh. Well, I started at this stuff at a really young age, at like probably 13 or 14. Like I was just this kid that wanted to record my own ideas and record my own music, and I was limited to just my mom's like Mac desktop computer and like a USB out of like my old Digitech like multi effects board. So my first experiences with recording were from there. And as time went on, jamming on Warpath and being in other instances of recording, getting to see how it actually gets done, that sparked so much curiosity and inspiration for me because it made me want to be a better player, made me want to write better, worthwhile songs. So by the time I graduated high school, I went and attended Studio West in the Recording Arts Center. It's a year-long intensive audio engineering program where they teach you absolutely everything that they can. So live sound, studio stuff, recording, Pro Tools, mixing, mastering, editing, and that's just a fraction of all of it. So wanting to go full force into it, being in Warpath for so long, I was in it for like 8 years, and so it was like a lot of gigging, a lot of practicing, a lot of traveling, and at some point, some of the stuff kind of got stagnant as far as work ethic went. So being in the studio was really satisfying for me because in the studio, I got to see the results like firsthand, like immediately with other bands that I was recording with some of my other stuff, like personally. And so seeing the results immediately and just having that out there, things getting released, things getting done was like really inspirational. So by the time I knew my time in Warpath was done, I knew this was something I wanted to dive headfirst in because I kind of already was doing that. Just it went like tenfold, like right after that.
Dude, absolutely. So, you're telling that you went to school for it and it was pretty intense. Do you recall any mistakes that you were making before you went to school for it?
Oh
Like where
God.
you went back to your recording, you're just like, man, like I can't believe I was making all these mistakes recording way before I was going to school. Do you ever recall anything like that while you were getting taught?
Yeah, the biggest thing for you engineers out there aspiring, like as far as recording drums, the number one thing that I was having issues with was getting these fat explosive drums that were just awesome. And you need to be conscious of what's called the phase relationship between microphones. Basically, you want these tons of microphones that you're recording the drum set with to work together. And if they're out of phase with one another, they are actually canceling each other out and taking away from that hard, deep impact that we all know and love out of really big, heavy metal drums. So when I think back on my biggest mistakes back then, like all my drum mics were out of phase, so it just meant my drum sounded like crap, even though my early recordings in general just sounded bad. But I'd say that's like the main thing, is phase relationship between mics.
What did you learn as a musician? Like now that you went through, you went to college for it and you built your studio and like let's just say like, tonight we're gonna be playing one of your new songs. Like what did you learn as a musician as like you were recording yourself? Did you have to learn any new disciplines before you started recording?
It's certainly an environment that you need to be very tight in, especially if you want to be pulling off this fast, intricate, hard-hitting, very clean style of music that metal is. We expect perfection, and editing is a part of it. But before that, you need to be killer and on it as much as you possibly can. So I had to get very used to learning what makes like a guitar tone tick. So examining every piece of the signal chain. So the guitar, the pedal board, the amp, the cabinet, the microphone, the preamp, the EQ that is going in. Just that by itself, I've spent hours just dissecting and figuring out how to use every point in that signal chain while I'm recording to my advantage while I'm playing. Because the feeling of a guitar rig or the feeling of a drum set or the feeling of a mic and a bass, all that stuff really kind of works hand in hand with what you're capable of.
Okay.
So I'd say that's like my main takeaway from recording is like, work with what you can do and at the same time learn every process in the signal chain that you're recording in different ways you can use the sound and the feeling to use that to your advantage for a better performance.
I love it. I love it. So, of course, a lot of us we know you as the shredder that you are. So
Thank
now,
you.
one of my favorite questions to ask is like, right now we're in that weird era where we're plugging directly in with pedals or with modelers, or where a lot of people are still using tube amps or mix and match. Like, what do you think are like some benefits to downfalls of using a tube amp and the benefits and downfalls of using like a modeler?
So the tube amp, you're we're gonna weigh some things. So we're weighing cost, the actual physical weight of it, it taking up space. It costs, for a good amp, you're gonna be dropping around 500 to like $3,000 for a really good amplifier. But the problem is when it breaks, that can be really expensive. Um, that stuff can get stolen too. So those are some of the downfalls and the logistics of just owning it. But as far as using it, I feel that amplifiers, they feel really good. There's something great about plugging a guitar direct into an amp, and it's like an immediate analog speed of light kind of response to what you're playing. So, just like I was talking about with recording earlier, the feeling in the signal chain plays a huge part in the sound because you're responding to it. Now, um, I'd say those are the main pitfalls and kind of the main um, goodness that you get from owning a real amplifier. But as far as modelers and stuff, like say like a plugin from Neural DSP, that stuff is really cool because, it's significantly cheaper. You don't have to worry about it breaking. You don't got to worry about it getting stolen. Arguably, it sounds just as good, but there are things that I do notice, like a speaker cabinet physically pushes air, right? But
Mm-hmm.
in the sim, it is mocking that. So that's something I can hear specifically in the high end. Not to mention, your guitar signal goes on a completely different trip when you are recording through a plugin. Instead of going out of a guitar jack, you and go through a pedal, through an amp, through a cabinet, through a microphone after it traveled through time and space to get there. And then it was recorded through a preamp. Your guitar takes a different trip. It just goes directly into the interface and it gets converted into ones and zeros. And then it does its computing down to the program. And then it spits it back out in audio through your headphones or in your, uh, you know, studio monitors. And that feels a lot different. Now, is it worth, spending another $3,000 just for it to feel a little bit better? I don't think so. Just do whatever, you feel sounds good and allows your artistic endeavors to flourish. But for me, I definitely prefer, I could angle the microphone here. I got a wall of tube amps right here.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So, and I use modelers all the time. I use a Kemper. I did live a lot for most of the Warpath stuff. I still use, the modelers for writing if I'm lazy and I don't want to set up a microphone or anything like that. So, to each their own. Work within your budget, work with what sounds and feels good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that like when Metallica they played, like James prefers to have a couple cabs on stage, that way he's not just playing in front of house. So that way, like if he feels like he's lost or his in-ears aren't working, he could always walk up to his amps, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and feeling that is a pretty big deal too. I mean, there's just something satisfying about feeling the vibration of a real cabinet in front of you while you're playing live.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I think there's a huge difference in it live. But honestly, like a lot of the bands that do sound great when they're playing through directly in it, I feel like you're really betting on the house having a good PA system, Because
That
because
too.
because I've seen some people play bad venues where they're playing directly in, and it doesn't sound that good because your power is only what the PA has available for you. So
Yeah.
so when a lot of these big bands play through it, like it sounds great, but I feel like yeah, in a pinch, I feel like an amp is always helpful. But like you said, like I can't tell you how many like little circuits or plugins I've had mess up on a tube amp. Like I play
Yeah.
like my amp I play right now. It's like a PV Invective, but at home and sometimes I want to get loud. I just play through like an HX Stomp, and it's
Yeah.
so reliable. It doesn't like overheat.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about any crackling noises. I could leave it on standby. There's so many benefits, and also like just like the like it has like I feel like sometimes with those with like the digital sound, it's like the onboard like what is it called? What is it called when you filter your noise? Like their feedback? The sound gate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the sound gates are a little easier to work with and everything. You
Yeah,
know what I
that
mean?
too.
Because the thing is, like when you spend $3,000 on an amp, it's like you're at the mercy of what that amp could do now. So if for some reason it can't do whatever you want it to do, it's like you're kind of just, you can't
Yeah.
really fix it.
Yeah, and that's another thing too with like the modeling stuff is it's so flexible because for the when I was playing the Warpath gigs, you can set up like patches, like five completely different sounding guitar rigs for one performance, which just means like one setting, right? You could do setting one, two, three, or four. And so if like we'd be playing a song like Super Beast by Rob Zombie, my rig would kind of be like my basic rhythm tone. Then I would have on another button my lead tone, and then another one would be a heavy chorusy effect, and the other one would be something absolutely crazy sounding for the intro. Like having that flexibility is so awesome because you can't do that stuff with like just one amp and one cabinet. Like you totally can, but you're going to be hauling around, a couple giant road racks and stuff. But with me, it was just a Kemper lunchbox and just my speaker cabinet. So live, I think the practicality heavily outweighs a real amplifier, but in the studio, I'm always using, real tube amps when I'm producing bands and stuff. And yeah, I want to say on every release I've done with bands, it's been real tube amps.
That's awesome. Yeah, what I do right now is kind of like I'll run my pedal through a clean channel on my amp.
Uh-huh.
And then I'll
Oh
just
yeah,
control
that's
everything
fun.
else. Because anytime I've ever had any troubles with an amp is when I'm trying to get more gain out of the distortion. So, like this amp I have now is my longest lasting amp, but it's also because I'm not using the distortion channel at all.
Hmm.
So when I bought a tube amp, I was specifically looking for good clean channels.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, it definitely is amp dependent too. I have some amps that sound amazing on the distortion, but lack in the clean setting, and I got amps that lack or yeah, in the distortion setting, but have like the most beautiful clean tones I've had.
So you've been recording other artists, right? And other
Yeah,
people coming in. So, so do you record all sorts of genres when you're recording, or are you sticking to rock and metal?
I'm specializing mainly in rock and metal. I'm not scared of other genres, but because it's my specialty, I'm just kind of working with bands in that area. But yeah, I usually keep it pretty heavy.
All right. Yeah, I've always thought about that, because I know like, certain artists just yeah, like you said, specialize in certain genres. So I'm just like, but you would take that leap if somebody offered you to do something else, Or do you ever think about trying other genres?
Yeah, I think about it. I mean, if someone hit me up and was like, "Hey, let's do a reggae record," I'd totally be down. Or, I would say I'm more used to recording like real instruments, so drums, bass, guitar, vocals, and stuff. It's when we start to get into like more electronic music, like electronic pop, EDM, like that is a completely different wheelhouse that I'm not really used to. So instead of like taking this person's hard-earned money and kind of screwing it up, I'd rather just kind of point him in a direction of somebody I know who's really good at that. But, I try to keep it relatively like, real instruments.
You know what podcast I'm gonna send you a podcast so you can listen to it some other time. So I Avenged Sevenfold has this podcast called Tracks,
Okay.
and it's where
Oh,
like they
they
bring.
open up the sessions, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I
So
saw the one where they did like Almost Easy and like, yeah, a handful
yeah,
of other tracks.
so they did Cosmic, and so Avenged Sevenfold since I think the White
I
Album.
I trained with their producer, the one that did the latest album.
That's incredible. So no, that's super jealous of you. So I think since the White Album, Avenged Sevenfold produces all their own stuff now, where
Okay.
it's them in the studio, and Matt even talks about how like every instrument is all the trumpets, all the synths and everything. It's all like real instruments. But one of the things, and it kind of blew me in mind was when they were doing Cosmic, is that um all the work that went into it. I remember hearing it that on that song Cosmic that they remixed it 3 times and each time took 15 hours,
Yeah.
to remix it each time. And also that they used 3 different drum sets in that song.
Yeah.
So Brooks had to go in there with 3 different drum sets and then he had to learn how to like recreate it, and but I want to send you it because like they spent hundreds of hours on one song, on how to end it, how to build it up. Because I have you heard Cosmic?
Yeah, I've heard that song. I really like that song.
Yeah, so the,
I,
so
I
the
like
whole
that
song,
whole album.
yeah, I love it. A lot of people got mad because of it, but here's the thing, like
Yeah.
I honestly like it when bands change.
Yeah.
Just you know what I mean, like, and it's like for me, it's because then when you hear a band that changes, it's like every album is like a different emotion and a different expression, because I do love bands that play the same album over and over, like the same type of styles.
Yeah.
But I do like it when bands don't play safe,
Yeah,
you know?
like I kind of think of it as like so Megadeth, right? When Marty Friedman was still in the band, I remember an interview with Marty mentioning like he wanted to paint with different colors within Megadeth, whereas the main palette of colors within Megadeth was like this gunmetal gray, and it was just very like just hard driven Dave kind of aggression, which is fine. That works for Megadeth. Um, in the context of Sevenfold, I think about their main popular albums, City of Evil, White Album, and Nightmare. I kind of think of that as like relatively gunmetal gray, especially when you got into like Hail to the King era. But getting into like the stage and then
Life is but a
I,
dream.
Life is But a Dream, like they completely switched it up. And there's some really beautiful moments on both of those albums, especially the latest one. I really like We Love You and how, you know, you could go from one really cool, like Rammstein kind of like disco beat,
Yeah.
and then like, I don't know, listen to like the chorus guitars in there. Like, instead of it just being like, I'm gonna ad lib the riff, but like, you can ad lib the riff and normally play it like digga 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 digga. But instead of like actually picking that, they have like an effect on there that's like cutting the sound out instead of actually, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it has like this kind of like edited, like the riff has been
Yeah.
spliced around to give it like a different kind of sound. So I don't know. I like albums where they do a bunch of weird stuff, like, instead of just keeping it within a certain wheelhouse.
Oh yeah. It's yeah, no, I think it's pretty insane, man. I really love that album and it's pretty cool that like, nowadays it's like I like it that a lot of artists are like self-producing a lot, I know one another artist that does a lot of self-producing is like Polyphia.
Yeah.
And Tim Henson always talks about how like he doesn't have like some crazy expensive interface, how like they're always just like laying down tracks and stuff. And it's like I feel it's like right now we're like in a whole new era where there's just so many bands producing so much, you know.
Yeah.
And I talk to a lot of artists, and and it's like, I don't know. I think it's great because back in the day, it's like you used to have to fight to get in a studio. You used to have like this big producer like you first, and now it's like,
Yeah.
now it's like the Wild West of music. And if you could produce something awesome, like you're gonna be found.
Yeah, I think the general consensus for music these days is like it's everything is so readily available and everything is fully like within your grasp. So by all means, like record some stuff that you're really happy with and that you have fun doing because, I've been in situations myself and seen other artists that I've recorded and like they're not happy doing what they're doing. And like at that point, I think to myself, what is the point? Like, why should you even be doing this stuff if it doesn't make you happy? So, like in the context of life is but a dream. When I went and trained with their producer Joe Barisi, he does Alice in Chains' stuff. He's doing the latest Jerry Cantrell record, um, the Tool stuff, and you know I think a lot of his points were around like there's no rules, have fun with it, and like just kind of keep yourself and the people that you're working with inspired. And that's just kind of what I'm moving forward with is like, you know, especially with the song that I just released, that one really inspired me as well because like I just really like hard hitting, fast, sort of like Megadeth, Slayer, in your face, slapping you around kind of heavy metal. So I had a ton of fun like putting that song together for sure.
Dude, no, I can't wait. And I just, what an honor that must have been, just to be able to learn from him. Like that's just that's just mind blowing. Do you ever get like the butterflies when you're working with people in the industry like that?
Um, Kind of. I mean, when I first met him, I was like, "Holy shit! Like, this is the guy that I want to work with." And I was pretty excited about it, and he was very cool and was happy to answer any question that myself and any of the other students had. And since then, I feel like my workflow has just like become this thing that is like I feel like I'm just kind of like driving a cool like fast car or something. That's the best way I could describe like what I'm doing right now. Is it feels really good.
I love it, man. And no, I can't wait to listen to your song Illich. So, everybody who's listening or knows you, that we know that you're just a monster shredder. So I honestly don't know what to expect in this song. I know we're gonna expect something awesome, and you recorded all of this, which is,
Yeah.
we're gonna hear everything that we heard in this interview in this song.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
the inspirations, you going through your trials and tribulations. And so what was the how'd you come up with the title of the song Illich?
So, Illich or Elish means bad
Okay.
devil or demon in my local Native American Ipai language.
Illich.
And like I came up with the instrumental. That's usually how I do it. I write some cool riffs and then I put it all together and then I just record it and then I leave the lyrics to like the very end. And I just kind of liked the idea of like this basically the song is about like getting possessed by a devil or a demon and you are like the devil's kind of you're their vehicle for creating like Armageddon and the end of the world. Um, so that's kind of where the idea came from is like getting possessed and you are also just going to be like their, puppet basically for facilitating the end of all time and all that other kinds of stuff. So,
I I love it, dude. I love that concept, dude. It's why I wear a rosary, dude. I haven't taken this rosary off in 22 years, even through
uh-huh,
like showers and everything. And it's because I sold my soul to the devil when I was 12.
uh-huh.
I told him to give me musical talent, and now if I take it off, I don't want to. That's a bad. But
Hey, there you go, man.
yeah, no, no, sorry, I didn't mean to throw it off like that.
No,
But
no, no.
no, Illish, dude. I'm super excited. Can we expect to see you on stage in the future?
Um, at some point, yes, when the time is right. I was jamming with some other people and that fell through. But if you want to listen to that song, we dropped one song. It's called A Soul on Fire by Subarachnoid. That one's pretty gnarly. But in the meantime, I'm just going to be continuing my productions and, if it's myself or other bands, And then maybe when I have enough material, I'll get some people together, and we'll have a good 45-minute set and try to play some more shows around San Diego.
Sweet, man. Sweet. Well, Harrison, thank you so much for being on the Metal Mixtape, man.
Hey,
Stay
thank you so much for having me.
stay